Now we are joined in studio by Jim Sinicropi, who has more food for us and capping off a food-centric week here on Finger Lakes today. We've had plenty of food, plenty of good food. What have you got for us today?
Well, I wanted to make Ratatouille. I've never done it before. A lot of people have seen the movie. It's my favorite Disney movie. And so I looked at a couple different recipes online and decided how I was going to make it my own and kind of put it together. And I wasn't like thrilled with it. It came out good, but part of the segment, or part of the TikToks that we're throwing up on the FL1 Food TikTok channel, they aren't necessarily instructional videos. They're like, look, this is what I made. Watch me make it. And then I could tell you that this one was a 6.5 out of 10. I'd be excited to make it again, and I'll show you what I'll do different after we watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Ratatouille with steak strips and rice. This is my first time making ratatouille, which is going to feature eggplant, yellow squash, and zucchini, among a variety of other vegetables. And we start by preparing some garlic. We're going to build a base for the ratatouille in the form of a sauce. We'll also reserve those garlic cloves for later on. And we'll dice up a sweet onion and some portobello mushrooms. And then 3 bell peppers. Ratatouille is a pretty colorful dish. And nothing's more colorful than bell peppers. I got a red, an orange, and a yellow. We'll dice them up as well. And then we're ready to get to work on our base sauce. In this Le Creuset pan, which is perfect for ratatouille, I got a half stick of butter, some extra virgin olive oil, and then in go the onions and garlic, along with some crushed red pepper, and about a spoonful of turmeric. And then we're going to let that cook down and add our bell pepper trio. And on top of that, our portobello mushrooms. And we'll season that with a healthy dose of Himalayan sea salt. And then we'll grind up some fresh ground black pepper on top of that. And then after that cooks down for about 10 minutes, add some red wine. Then hit it with tomato paste and work that into the mix. You can see it's getting a little too thick, so a little more red wine. Just let it cook down, and then we're going to get ready to do some slicing. Now, a mandolin would have been a better tool for this job, but I don't have a mandolin. This reminded me that I want to get a mandolin. But for now, we'll make do by trying to cut thin, even slices of the eggplant, the yellow squash, and the zucchini. It's nice if you can get all of them to be the same size, but if you can't, that's just fine. Also dice up my tomatoes, and then we start to put them together like a deck of cards. I go zucchini, tomato, eggplant, yellow squash, repeat. And then we line them up along the edge of this pan, and the sauce is thick enough that it kind of holds it in place, which is nice. Makes it a little easier. And for some of those eggplant pieces that were a little too big in proportion to the zucchini and the squash, I kind of cut off the bottom quarter of the circle, and then they lined up at the top with the other vegetables. When you're done, it looks like this. So some freshly squeezed lemon juice over the top of it all. And I could have seasoned these vegetables before putting them in the pan, but there was a lot going on, just a lot of sliced vegetables, tough to kind of season them all. at once. So some more salt, some more ground pepper on top, and some more crushed red pepper on top as well. And then we're going to put a cover on it and put it in the oven at 375 for about 20 minutes. Meanwhile, those garlic cloves I reserved, a hefty bunch of fresh basil, some more salt, some more lemon juice, and crushed red pepper, a healthy dose of extra virgin olive oil, and then we're going to grind it in my NutriBullet. After 20 minutes, we'll take a look at what's going on in the pan and look at that steam coming off those fresh vegetables with the sauce underneath it. I take that pesto that we created and spread it across the top of the zucchini, eggplant, yellow squash, and tomatoes. And once I get most of it on there, work it in with my hands, give it a nice coating, get it in between some of those slices, and then uncovered back into the oven for about 20 more minutes. Meanwhile, let's cook the steak. Got a pair of Delmonico thin slice steaks, about 2 to 3 minutes on either side, and then a slight deglazing of the pan with a little red wine and a nice pat of butter. And then we slice these up. After resting, set them aside until we can get the Ratatouille out of the oven. And look at that, doesn't that look just great? Ratatouille, probably one of the prettiest dishes you'll ever make. And now we're ready to put it all on a plate. I have some white rice and a scoop of the Ratatouille. Gonna go back into the pan for some of the sauce. Get another scoop just to make sure that we have enough to incorporate with all that rice. And then the steak, gonna go next to it. Wish I reserved some of that pesto to put on top of the steak, but I'll have to remember that for next time. And also, if I did this again, I definitely would want to do it with a mandolin. I know I could make it better, but for the first effort at Ratatouille, it came out great.
All right, Jim, I have to level with you. Like, you were pretty critical of that, but it looks pretty darn good, especially for a first run. What if you're thinking about things that maybe you would have done differently? Like, what are you thinking of?
Well, it does look good. I mean, it's a good looking dish, which is why I think if somebody was to say, hey, we're having a dinner party, would you bring a side? I think I'd go for that.
Right.
But like I said, it was my first time, and it was a Tuesday night when I made it, so didn't take enough time maybe. But number one, I need a mandolin.
Right.
You know what I mean, a mandolin to slice
Yes.
those squash and zucchini paper thin and
So
all
they're
the
all
same
equal.
size.
Yeah.
And then I think it was just too thick. Like the squash especially was just too thick, and so when you line it around, it should all like fold together perfectly. And there was just a little. And then when it was done, it was still a little crunchy. I think some of those vegetables, and I think you really want it to be more savory and soft, and kind of all those different slices come together. And I don't know if I would use tomatoes either in terms of, layering it in there with the squash and zucchini. I might skip the tomatoes next time. And I would definitely season all those before I put them in. But after I sliced them all, I just had these giant mounds of like zucchini, squash, and eggplant. And so to really season them correctly, I would have had to get out 3 separate bowls because you want to keep them separate so when you put it together. And I just didn't have the heart for it on Tuesday night. But it was like a first run, and it was fine. And we've eaten the leftovers 2 nights in a row. It was fine. It was fine. I can't wait to make it again, though, with a little more attention and care. I don't think that the food critic in the movie Ratatouille would have liked mine as much as he liked the mouse that made it.
So the rat wins this time. But
Yeah.
when you mentioned the tomatoes, I'm curious. High water content in tomatoes, obviously. Would you be worried at all about that affecting how the dish comes out if you're not going to be using tomatoes in version 2.0?
No, because you have the sauce underneath it, and I focused on trying to make that sauce thick so I could kind of place the slices of the vegetables in it and
Yep.
have it kind of hold it. But I think if I made it just a little more, saucy, that would take care of it. And there's water and zucchini and squash and eggplant too. And it's just, I don't think that I could cut the tomatoes thin enough to, what my vision for it is like I said, all really thinly cut, perfectly placed. And then as it cooks, it kind of comes into one. So when I took a scoop into that to serve it, I actually just had to kind of take a stack out. But I think if you do it correctly, you can scoop into it like any casserole almost. You know what I mean?
And it'll come out clean.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, I'm not a professional chef, and I was making that, and I figured I'd put it out there on TikTok and see how it came out. And next time, I think I'll do better, and I'll post that too.